Hi, everybody. I'm here today with C.J Leedes, horror writer, hiker, Trekkie, and all-around very cool person. Her debut novel, Maeve won the Golden Poppy Octavia E. Butler Award, the Splatterpunk Award for Best Novel, and was a Bram Stoker Award nominee, as well as an Indie Next Pick. Her second and most recent novel, American Rapture, was also an Indie Next Pick. She holds an MFA in creative writing from Columbia University and a BA from NYU's Gallatin School, where she studied mythology and the Middle Ages. Welcome, CJ.
Thank you so much.
So when I was prepping that bio for you, I had to leave a lot out just to keep from rambling. So please tell me what I missed.
Nothing at all. I just serve the whims of 4 dogs, and that's how I spend 80% of my time.
I get that. I've got one right over there.
Writing. Oh, so cute.
That's Tater Tot.
Tater Tot.
See, I knew I liked you. I knew you were a dog person, so I was like, we're gonna get along fine.
That's the best. Actually, my editor's dog is named Tater Tot too, so that's I love that.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. I love a good food name for a dog. I don't know. It's just great.
Right? I know. I always kind of wanted a lunchbox, but we've never gotten a dog where it felt like it fit. So maybe one day.
Yeah, you've got to wait for the right fit. It's so true. Well, I want to start from the beginning. So, how did you first get into writing and why horror?
I got into writing because I had an open elective my final year of undergrad, and I took a writing class, and I wrote the early pages of what would become American Rapture later. I graduated, didn't really think about it, and my pages had been forwarded to some people in the industry who reached out and asked for full manuscripts, and I had never written anything. I thought, why not? So for 2 months, I cranked out a book. It was the worst book ever, so bad. Nothing came of it, but months went on, and I couldn't stop thinking about how much I enjoyed those 2 months writing, and I thought maybe that's what I want to do. And so I was going to go back to school anyway, and I applied to grad school for writing instead, and then it just happened.
That's awesome. Well, how did your focus shift, and this might be redundant, from mythology and the Middle Ages to creative writing? Or was it one of those things where it wasn't really a shift and you just kind of naturally progressed?
I think what I like a lot about mythology in the Middle Ages, it's just stories, right? It's like anything else. It's just human stories. And so creative writing really is sort of just extrapolating on real life stuff, and then sort of coming up with an alternate reality version of story in your head, And so to me, it's all very interlinked. But the big thing was I thought that I wanted to spend my life in libraries. That was very appealing to me, and just sort of quietly contribute to bodies of work. And I think what I realized in my early 20s was that fiction writing sort of allows you to I live on the road half the time, and it's dream life to me. So you get to really inhabit a lot of different people and places and lives.
I totally get that. And I read on your blog that you were working towards becoming a published author for 7 years before you landed the deal for Maeve.
Yeah.
And what kept you going for so long, and how did you deal with disappointment? Because I know a lot of us deal with that.
Oh, it's terrible. It's the worst thing ever. Querying is so brutal, and I feel probably doesn't need to be that way. There's got to be a better system. And in terms of, I wrote 3 books. Maeve was the 3rd book I wrote. And I just honestly thought by that point, I had gotten so many rejections. I thought querying is the worst thing ever, and should not be so difficult, and should not be so emotionally difficult for writers. I think it's very hard to keep going when you get so many rejections. But I had queried, I thought, everyone, and I had written 2 books, and neither of them could sell it. And I kind of thought that was going to be that. So I just wrote Maeve kind of for myself. And then that ended up being the one that sold. And I couldn't have written Maeve if the other ones hadn't been so difficult, and if I hadn't been doing it for so long. So I'm, in hindsight, I'm so grateful. So I don't know if anyone out there is querying and like needs just a little more hope to hold on. I know a lot of people with this kind of story, and the right book comes out first, and then the others follow.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, what is your writing process like? Do you like to plot? Are you a pantser? Do you, I don't know, write longhand or type on a typewriter? What's your process like?
I used to be such like a I was like such a drill sergeant with myself with plotting, like I plot the whole book, I do a really detailed outline and then I go. And now I'm kind of learning like every book kind of requires its own method, like they're all so different. And I think for me the big thing is trying to like tune in and listen to what I think like the particular book I'm working on needs, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. But that's sometimes it's hard to do, especially if you have a process that worked really well and you think, well, I'll just do it again.
Yeah. No, it is hard. It's like I had a professor once say like you never learn how to write a book. You only learn how to write the book you're working on. And I
Mm.
think that's true, at least in my experience, which granted is limited. I've only written like four ever, but every book is like I have to relearn how to be a writer, and that's hard, process, but it's also very rewarding and like
Mm.
kind of beautiful because you discover so much.
It's so true. And before we kind of dive into some more topical questions about your books, I would love to talk a bit about place with a capital P. So I was looking on your website, and you say you are, and I'm going to quote here, interested largely in place, each town or city or state singular and unique in the ways they birth their inhabitants and vice versa, which I think is super cool. And I know with Maeve Fly, Los Angeles is almost its own character, and then we've got Wisconsin and American Rapture. So I would love to hear you talk more about place and why it's so important to you and your work.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a thing on Instagram where people were saying if you want to hate America, watch the news, and if you want to love America, get in your car. And I
Hmm.
think for me that's really rung true. Like I in my early 20s, around the time that I kind of like dropped everything and wrote that pretty bad book, um, I spent about 7 months on the road and got to know this country in a way that I never had before. And I think there's a lot here that's difficult and that we haven't figured out. It's very tumultuous, but there's a lot to celebrate too. And so um, I wanted, I just want to highlight what I think is wonderful here, and especially kind of try and capture like unique cultures within the American landscape, and also this sort of like Americanness that we are kind of like inhabiting and grappling with all the time. But yeah, my kind of project is going state by state. So I gotta write faster because I gotta hit 50.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that so much, and I definitely think we need more of that. And I kind of want to set the stage before we talk more about American Rapture, which is, so strongly oriented around and rooted in Wisconsin, which I've been there but never thought too much about it. And now I really want to go to the House on the Rock. As soon as I read that, I was like, I must go. But what comes first in your novel writing? Is it the place and the setting, or the character, or the plot, or something else?
It it really depends on the book. With American Rapture, I mean it was such a I wrote the beginning like I thought it was gonna be a YA dystopian, it was very different.
Mm.
But the characters kind of just pop up for me, like I probably the characters are there. And in
Mm.
terms of place, like I just go places and then certain locations will stick with me like House on the Rock, and I'm like obviously that has to be in there. You have to go to everyone should go to House on the Rock if you gain nothing else from like interacting with my book. I just want people to experience it.
I
It's
want to go so
crazy.
badly, so badly.
I feel like I want to put together a little like suggested road trip maybe for American Rapture
Yes.
for readers.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, I also want to ask, what is the most interesting or weird or bizarre or fun place you visited for book research?
Oh my gosh. It's like so many. Um One of the wildest experiences I've had was I haven't put it in a book yet, but I went once to a demolition derby in
Mm.
Vermont, which is basically like it's like a fair, like a state fair kind of vibe. And then in this arena, cars that are kind of like at the end of their lives, basically like destroy each other. And everyone cheers them on, and they like try to get the mud, to like fly up onto the spectators, and it's like that was a pretty wild experience. I'll probably think of more later, but there's all kinds of strangeness, beautiful strangeness here.
I would absolutely agree. I would never have expected that. That's a good one. And so this season of my podcast is all about kind of religious horror, and so I would love to dive more into some of those themes. And so
Great.
I snapped this up as soon as it came out. I got the hardcover, and I read it last year. Absolutely loved it. And for all my listeners, the paperback edition is coming out on September 16th. And so this is such a unique, it's punchy, it's powerful. Also, I absolutely love the cover. And it gave me something that I really crave in horror, which is a connection to those characters. Like, I genuinely cared about what happened to them. And I just want to know, how do you go about crafting something like that? Like characters that people actually care about that feel like real people?
I'm so glad you felt that way. And yeah, thank you. I'm also obsessed with the cover. Side note, like I don't have too much to do with that, but I am like so grateful that it is so cool. Um, I I think every character has to have a want and or multiple wants and things that are painful. And so I just I love humans, and I think we all have our own perspectives and where we're coming from. And I think it can be difficult to understand other people sometimes, but trying to understand as many perspectives as possible is only ever going to like help us. And so I just try to make them like believable people, but also people that I like, even a little bit, even if I don't agree with them, just people I'd want to hang out with. And I enjoyed doing that with this book. It was also cool because I started it in my early 20s to have like a very young, two young protagonists, and then, or three actually, and then I finished it in my 30s, and to get to like write the adult characters and kind of like rewrite them from a more adult perspective was a really cool experience.
For sure. Also, I have to ask, would you want to hang out with Maeve?
Uh, Unfortunate, like Maeve is in me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like the murdery parts, obviously, but
Hope not.
uh, yeah, I have a notes tab of things. I'm like a nice person, okay? I'm like a Pisces. I'm like a sweet person in this world, but I do keep a notes tab of things that like annoy me, and it's kind of like I feel like that's my healthy way. It's like I just write it down and save it. So if I ever write more Maeve, like they're just all going in there.
I was literally thinking about that today. I have a book that's about a deranged pre-med student, and people have asked me if that's me. Like, I'm a nice person, and it's because I get all my meanness out in the books. It's like therapy.
Yeah, it's healthy.
And then other people can enjoy it too, instead of just being scared of me.
100%. I love that.
Well, what does religious horror mean to you? Because I know obviously this is a very religious looking cover. There are definitely religious themes. What makes something horrifying and religious?
I mean, there are so many ways to do it, right? Like you can do the sort of possession thing. There's obviously like nuns can be scary. There's the antichrist. There's like a million things you could do. In my case, like I just wanted to talk about the sort of like horror of like sin and shame culture, and the ways in which like we teach young girls that their whole and young folks of all types that their value kind of like lies in their attractiveness and their sort of like sexual selves, but at the same time like it's their greatest sin and shame. And I think that's like an impossible space to grow up in, and I think it's a problem.
Mhm. I would agree. And I mean, I also loved the fact that there was a disease outbreak in here. I was trained as an epidemiologist, so I like live and breathe disease in a healthy way. And so seeing that depicted here was so much fun for me and just such a fun twist that I loved.
How did it feel to you? I haven't talked to an epidemiologist about it.
Well, that's why I liked it so much, because I was reading it and I was like, that tracks. That makes sense. Because I will stop reading a book if it brings in some science and I'm like, that's just straight up not true. It takes me out of it. I never felt that reading this. I was like, she did it. She got it.
So many books on viruses, and I was like talking to doctors. Thank you.
Yeah, Yeah, of course. I mean, it shows. And that's what matters to me. It's like if I can see that somebody did the research and put in the work, then I want to put in the work to read it. I'm already engaged. You know what I mean?
I love that. Thank you. My
Yeah.
third book's coming up, and like the research has been through the roof. So I'm hoping it pays off too. But like you never know. Like there's going to be one reader who's like, "Ah, that detail was insane."
I know, but you're just one person. There's only so much you can do.
It's fiction.
Exactly. That's what I always fall back on. I'm like, well, I made it up, so it's
I
fine.
made it up. Yeah, I did it on purpose.
I don't know if you've noticed, I'm sure you have, but religious horror seems like it's really been having a moment in the last few years. I mean, we've got books like yours, Nick Roberts' The Exorcist House trilogy, The Starving Saints, and
Yeah.
movies too, like The Last Omen, Immaculate, Long Legs had some religious horror. Any thoughts as to why that's really popping right now?
I think it. I think there's a. We have a big push pull right now with church and state, and I think there's also probably the fact that, like, I imagine a lot of people my age like grew up maybe kind of similarly in religious situations, and then uh may or may not be deconstructing now as adults. And so I wonder if there's this sort of like retroactive thing. But I don't know if that really changes over time. I think it has to do with politics. They also say in general, like horror sells quite well in times of political turmoil,
hmm
which is like pretty fascinating. And comedy are sort of like catharsis mediums.
That makes absolute sense to me. I totally agree with you. And I think especially when we're living in times of like serious division, people
Yeah.
look to religion for comfort. And then because
Yeah.
we are scary, we have to twist religion around and make you look at it in a different way.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, kind of going off of that, I think that horror is the most effective, or at least one of the most effective genres to make people really feel, whether that's terror, empathy, grief, humor, I mean, anything. Why do you think people like horror so much?
Well, I agree with you. I like horror personally because I think it's like we live with this thing that is so difficult and so kind of unfathomable, which is mortality. And we live with it all the time. We're gonna live with it until we're not here anymore. And it's impossible and it's terrifying. And the beautiful thing about horror as a genre is it kind of like holds our hand as we look at it. It kind of says, hey, take a look at this. It does exist, it's here, but there's also a world outside it. There's also life. And I think that's the beautiful thing about horror. It kind of looks at all of it.
I totally agree with that. And I think it's also a safe way for people to feel scared because
Yeah,
you can close the book,
yeah,
you can turn off the TV, but you get to control that. And that's something you
totally.
don't get in real life, obviously.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, what do you say to somebody who says, CJ, I really want to support you, but I just don't like horror? It's not for me.
I feel like, okay. I think I think everyone should get to consume what they want to consume, and I don't really have an issue with it. But I guess what I could say if someone like wanted to find a gateway in is like horror is such a broad umbrella, and I think folks get very stuck in this thought that maybe it's only slashers, like,
Mhm.
or maybe it's only Saw, and for whatever reason, that seems to be the kind of like pervasive thought. I think but there are so many. There's like really nuanced grief horror. There's
Mhm.
like horror comedy. It just kind of explores the things that scare us in this life. So it's anything that scares you might be sort of explored in any type of horror, and it might end up being something that people really like. But I do think there's a little bit of something for everyone, but if they're willing to seek it out.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, I've read historical fiction, I've read nonfiction, I've even read some romance. There are definitely horror elements in there. So
Yeah,
I find when people are like, I just don't like horror, I'm like, well, let's look at what you're reading and see there's probably a little bit of horror in there, probably a little bit.
yeah, for sure.
And I don't know about how you feel about this, but I always think when people try and like pigeonhole us as, genre writers, it just feels really misleading because I'm like, there is so much in horror. There's something there for everybody. And there are so many profound messages you can get if you just open your mind to receiving them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's the one genre that doesn't ignore the fact that we're all gonna die. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and even other genres will explore it to some degree, but I think there's something beautiful about really kind of facing it together.
I really like that. I've asked that question of a lot of authors, and that's a different answer than I've received, and I really like that.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And I know as horror authors, we are very difficult to scare, usually. But what do you think is the scariest book you've ever read and why?
Unfortunately, I'm not difficult to scare. I'm like scared of everything. But I was thinking about this. I think Ryan Evanson's Father of Lies. I'm going to keep it religious, actually.
Okay.
Is one of I think it's the most disturbing book I've ever read.
I have
Uh,
not heard of that one. I'm gonna write that down.
it's very like all the trigger warnings. It is from the perspective of a priest who uh does bad things that you can kind of imagine that priests
Mhm.
unfortunately do. It's very just incredibly disturbing book. It's very short, very effective, very scary. And
Awesome.
he's a genius writer. I think Brian Evanson is like one of the best writers out
Okay, I'm adding that to my never-ending TBR, but I wanna read that now. I'm all here for disturbing. So, what about the scariest movie you've ever seen and why?
For me personally, it was for sure Exorcist. I saw it when I was a kid. It excuse me, but it just terrified me. I couldn't sleep. I remember like almost throwing up from crying. And my mom, my poor mom, like who had it on and didn't realize I had seen, scenes. She was like, beside herself trying to figure out how to calm me down. And she finally she goes, "Honey, I'll go up. It's just makeup. I'll go upstairs and put it on right now." I was like, no. So yeah, I can't eat pea soup even now in my
Mm.
30s, and yeah, it scares the shit out of me.
I don't think you're missing much with the pea soup. There's not a big part for pea soup.
Yeah, it seems like an okay. I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned that because that's the one movie my parents would not let me watch until I was, like, 17, and when I finally watched it, I mean, yes, it holds up well, it does, but I was
Yeah,
like, "This is what was so traumatizing?" But, I mean, when it came out back in the '70s, it was totally revolutionary and different, and nobody had seen anything like that. So I
yeah.
agree that one is scary, and I will never mess around with a Ouija board, ever.
Oh no way, no
Mm,
way.
mm-mm.
Couldn't pay me.
No, I even had when I actually went to Georgetown, so we would pass by the Exorcist stairs all the time.
Oh,
And I made friends with one of the priests, and I was like, "Okay, you know all about this stuff. What is one thing we should not do if we don't wanna get possessed?" And he was like, "Do not play with a Ouija board." So,
there you go.
yeah, I'm
Okay,
glad I
now
listened
we
to him.
know.
Now we know. So, you've kind of hinted at this, but what is next on the horizon for you? I know you've got another novel coming out from Tor Nightfire soon. What's that one about?
Yeah, I have four more or like on deck. The next one is called Headlights, and it's my Colorado book, and it's like ghosts and cannibals and detective story.
Cool. I love that you do one in a different state every time. That is so cool. Can you tell us about the other ones? Because now you've hinted.
Yeah. Well, I know next after that they were like, we need to go to a city again. So I'm going to New York City after that. And then the next two, it'll be interesting. I don't know what they're gonna let me do, but I have a bunch in the works, like many. So we'll see what they end up deciding is next. But I've been working on. I'm trying to think. Florida, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, uh, Tennessee, Oregon, Wyoming. Those are the ones I can think of right
Are
now.
you writing all of these at the same time?
But just little bits and pieces, like just ideas, like kind of slowly building.
Okay, that makes sense. Because 'cause I'm like, it would be hard for me to hold all of that in my head at one time.
I kind of like the more like sometimes I'll go like if I'm taking a social media break, I'll go on Duolingo and I like switching back and forth between like five languages just to like kind of do you know what I mean? Like that feeling of kind of like
Mhm.
doing a bunch at once. Like that's a very that feeling that feels good to me. So I kind of like that with books, like kind of working on a bunch at once.
That's awesome, and I'm very excited for that. Do you know when the next one's gonna come out?
June 9th, 2026.
Okay, that feels way too far away.
I
Just
know. Theoretically, I'm on like a book a year schedule the next 4 summers. So
okay.
theoretically, they should start coming faster. I need it longer. You'll see, like this book is big.
Okay,
So
awesome.
yeah,
You travel to all these locations to do research?
yeah. Almost all. I mean, every now and then there'll be one that I like miss. and then I'll go like after the fact and be like, oh, I could have done that better. But yeah, it's really fun. I like to go back in the edit process and kind of fill in any gaps.
That's that's so much fun. I would love to do that if I had a little bit more freedom. I have 2 kids under the age of 4, so, like, traveling all the time is
Oh yeah, no way.
now, but I would love to do that at some point.
Hey, maybe they'll want to go with you.
But would I want them to go with me? That's the real question.
Fair.
One last question for you. So, any advice for aspiring authors who want to have a career like yours?
Oh man, I like seriously just don't stop, you know? The writing is really what matters, and people told me that when I was querying, they would be like, it's really about the writing, it's not about getting published, and anyone saying that to you when you're trying to get published, it's like it almost doesn't matter, right? Like you can't it's impossible to see. But it's just such a gift to get to put words on the page, and even if it feels hopeless, like everything can turn around in half a second, and then you're just on the other side forever. Like it's crazy. It just happens. So I don't know. Just don't stop and um, hold on to your good support systems, or build good support systems if you don't have any that you like.
That's very good advice, and it's a good thing to remember because you're right. If you're looking forward and you can't see the finish line, it feels so far ahead, but then,
Yeah.
an email can change everything, and then you're thinking, "How did I ever think this wasn't gonna work out?" You know?
Yeah, and then you think, "Oh, man," at least for me, I'm like, "Man, like, I maybe didn't need to be so miserable for so many years." But if I wasn't so miserable, I couldn't have written Maeve, so I don't know.
There you go. It all happened as it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, exactly,
Awesome.
exactly.
Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome, and where can people find you and keep up with you and your work?
I'm mostly active on Instagram. My handle is Siege the Moment. I'm gonna start using my website more probably like next year, so I don't know. I'll probably put that on Instagram, but I'm about to do a little I don't know, I think 9 stop paperback tour. So I posted my stops. I'm really excited. Throwing a big party in New York on Halloween or the week before Halloween. So yeah, come see me.
Awesome. I hope one day you come visit Savannah.
I am visiting Savannah later this year, not professionally, but maybe I'll give you a shout.
Please do. I mean, this is the most haunted city in the country, and we almost never get horror authors coming to visit. I'm like, come on, guys. People love
Yeah,
scary stuff here.
and it's beautiful.
Mhm.
It's so pretty. Oh, that's so cool you live there. What a great place to live.
I set my first book in Savannah, and part of that was just I want to come visit. I want to come explore, and it's
Yeah.
fun.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you.